Welcome back. Let's continue with more news at this hour. In fact, let's take you to Sandton, where SABC News economics editor Tshepo is in conversation with Thuja Capital CEO Mthunzi Mdwaba following the allegations that ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula and 3 cabinet members attempted to solicit a bribe of 500 million rand from him. Tshepo, on that note, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Lizelle. Yes, we are speaking to a man who has divided the nation. Some think that he should be taken seriously, whereas others think that he shouldn't be. He's a man who was awarded a 5 billion rand contract for coming forward and pitching an idea that could apparently create a lot of jobs for South Africa. This was an idea that would likely to create about 200,000 jobs. But the question is, how did he get this massive contract? There are business people who are asking today, how did people actually position themselves for these opportunities that were driven by the UIFs through what they call the Labor Activation Program, where businesses were encouraged to actually pitch ideas that have potential to create jobs. Many of them, they're asking, have never been advertised. Many of thousands of business people in South Africa have never got this opportunity to actually take advantage of this opportunity. We're speaking to the man now. Mthunzi, thank you very much for speaking to us.
And thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Tell us, how did you get this massive opportunity and receive 5 billion rand?
This opportunity, I think maybe just to make a little tweak before we start, the intention of the Thuja Parallel Universe ecosystem is to create over 700,000 jobs, not 200,000, 700,000 jobs. And really where we get that number is that the UIF database as we sit today has over 700,000 people, 80% of whom are on unemployment benefits. How did we get this? So this 5 billion has always, by the way, been meant to be seed capital. It's not, it may look massive, but actually my friends all over the world who want to match this amount want to match it in their currency, and therefore that could be far more massive for the country than the 5 billion rand because they come in their currency. We had a call for proposals in 2019. This call for proposal followed a tour that I'm told the DG and the department had throughout the country. Business people had lamented and complained that they don't know how to help the department. They don't know how to help them create jobs. How can they be brought in? The DG, I was told at the time, came back and then had a call for proposals. It was within that context that Thuja then submitted a proposal, and then process was followed over 4 years. There was COVID in between. That's how it happened. That's how it happened.
Obviously, it's a massive project. How much did it cost you to prepare this? How much time did it cost, money that cost you to put this project together?
In terms of money, to the date of the signing of the contract, the 18th of December, it would have been about 17.5 million of my cash. But now that we've had the drama from then until now, you know, the burn rate has been quite high because I've had lawyers, I've had consultants, I've had to pay for people as well, my advisors, you know, and keep them warm and whatever. So to date, we've spent about 22 million, give or take. I haven't calculated in the last 3 weeks, but thereabouts.
How many other people do you know actually were involved in this opportunity? That eventually you actually came to?
I have no clue. Know though that there were quite a few responders, but I also think that the respondents, from what I learned, were all at different levels, because really the focus of the call for proposals, I'm told, was only for people who wanted to create employment and for people who wanted to create sustainable enterprises. That was the main focus. Our project, of course, had an extra dimension, because in its conception, it was conceived to actually create not only the employment and not only deal with what I believed was a legacy issue of failing to create jobs for many years in South Africa, but also I felt that like electricity and like water, the UIF, the Unemployment Insurance Fund, was going to run out of money. So it was also designed to save the UIF from not paying monies and also from getting more money from the employment that would be created so that its coffers are maintained. And of course, it was also pre-COVID. So when the COVID came and they spent 64 billion, then everybody realized actually how serious it was that the UIF could run out of money. So it was meant to deal with that, our project. I don't know if other people also looked into that, the UIF element, but the two, I know that everybody was supposed to respond to that.
What do you think sets you apart? Because we know that the labor activation program has been around for quite some time. And I know about 2.7 billion was set aside to encourage businesses to pitch job creation ideas. You're saying that your idea was quite unique, and you maintain that it's different and it must be allowed to continue. How different is it?
Firstly, at the risk of, I've already been referred to as being arrogant, so I might as well just mention it, because I also believe that arrogance only happens amongst us as black people. When we are knowledgeable, we call each other arrogant. I'm a labor expert. I'm an entrepreneur, first of all, a serial entrepreneur, but I'm also an organized business person. So my life has always had these two. And between the entrepreneurship and the organized business leadership, where I ended up leading all the employers in the world in the ILO, which is the mother of the workplace, we also had in between a situation that also relates to an understanding and an appreciation of what it is that drives the developing countries versus the developed countries. Because again, amongst the 187 countries that I was serving, they were divided along those lines in the main. So armed with that and the knowledge from a company I'd built many, many years ago, a company called Talk IT, which was actually the leading high technical training solutions provider in the African continent. I built this company as the CEO with my partners in 27 countries. But what was the problem with Talk IT? So Talk IT would win Cisco Partner of the Year every year for 7 years, Microsoft Partner of the Year. We would win the Department of Labor, as it then was, what they called a 75 to 80% conversion rate from training to employability. But my issue was always that there's always 20 to 25% that we're not converting. Because, we would win awards for 75 to 80% conversion, but my argument was the majority of people, young people I know, come onto our programs having had degrees but can't get jobs. So they come here with the hope that they're going to get employment. So if we can cater for that 200, if we're training 1,000 people, and 200 don't have a job, then we have a problem. So I was looking for a way that would convert as much as possible to maybe about 95% if possible. And this is what this project is supposed to do. It's not just about training, it's in 8 sectors. So whereas my company, Talk IT, was in telecoms and technology, we've got now that multiplied by 8, plus adding an element of employability in it.
Let's go back to the company itself, Thuja Holdings or Thuja Capital. Tell us about who are the directors, the shareholders in the company. It's a massive company, given the size of the contract that you are getting. And also, a 5 billion rand. How much is your commission, and how much are you, or your profit from this amount?
Okay, that's a very pregnant question, so I need to deal with it. You've got 3 questions in that question. So the first part is, who are the shareholders? The shareholders, the main shareholders are myself and a lady by the name of Nava Naidu. The other shareholders are the people who, when we started this project, we went around friends and people in our network. There's about maybe, I would say, 30 people, as a guess, I haven't checked lately, who contributed various amounts to make sure that we've got cash flow, we've got some monies we can use. So I would say there's maybe easily 30 to 35 at the most shareholders of this venture. But the potential shareholder in terms of the signed agreement that was signed on the 18th of December is the Unemployment Insurance Fund. The Unemployment Insurance Fund, in terms of the contract, can exercise up to 19% equity of what we do as part of the structuring of the arrangement. So that's part 1. Then the next question you asked me was about commission. There is no commission here. I don't think that commission is part of our structure, certainly, because remember here that we have gone for a globular fund of 5 billion, which as an idea is going to be matched by other 5 billions from other parts of the world, where I will go and leverage and knock on doors and work on my friends, my friendships really, and they're actually quite keen to get involved. But they said, before we get involved, can you show us that your people, your home is serious about creating employment? And then we'll come and talk to you, because the different countries, for example, want different areas of focus. So if I was to say, for example, example, if Switzerland were to play a part, I would say Switzerland would be interested in fintech and agriculture. And Switzerland is almost my second home because I spend so much time there. And let's say Norway were to play a role, Norway would probably look at renewable energy and aquaculture. And these are all in these 8 sectors, right? And some people are also interested in the advancement of hemp. The US and Switzerland are interested in hemp. One of the things we've done, just by the way, as I'm answering you now, even though it's not about the commission question you asked, is we've created a hemp trading platform in the US. Like you do a gold trading platform as a way of creating access for farmers. We would bring them the seed, we would harvest, we would take it away from them and trade it for them, about 60 to 65% of that. The balance would be manufacturing and so on and so on. But I want to come back to the third part of your question. What would be the profit? I have no idea actually what the profit would be, because we are not profit driven, we are job creation driven. We are not how much money will we make, but we are driven by ensuring that there is job intensity and job sustainability. Yes, we must be profitable. Yes, we must wash our face to be able to make it sustainable. But the way the project, the way the concept, the parallel universe ecosystem has been structured, it's been structured in such a way that there is no way, well, you can make a loss, I suppose, if you make some very bad calculations in one of your investments and whatever, but it's a combination of new ventures completely that we start from scratch by virtue of using people we're going to be recruiting from the UIF initially. Initially, our low-hanging fruit is we're recruiting from the UIF, we're recruiting people that are sitting there, 700,000 unemployed, we're assessing, we're analyzing, we're retraining, but we're retraining from non-absorptive entities to more absorptive entities, and in doing that, we are making sure that we go beyond the mining economy.
But you've already spent about 22 million rand of your own money.
Yeah.
There are companies, banks, you've mentioned that are interested in this, and you're a businessman. Surely you've done some projection in terms of how this will benefit you.
Well, you said commission and profit. Benefit me? Well, I'm a businessman. If I didn't make money, there would be something wrong with the concept. No, I'm going to make money, and I must make money. Why must I go into all this trouble and help everybody but don't help me? I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. I'm a capitalist. I've always opened up on that. I've always told my friends in the trade union movement, I said, I'm a capitalist, but hopefully I'm a conscientious capitalist who wants to impact people first. For me, I'm not driven by how much money I'm going to make. I know I must make money, and I've always made money in the businesses I've built, right? But in building this, it's like a legacy project for me. And it's a given that I'll make money. How much money? Probably a lot of money, but is it as important as the lives I'm going to change, over 700,000 that we're going to work on? I don't know. I don't know if one should even have a comparison like that, but money I will make.
Let's talk about the latest recent development that have happened. You've received letters for defamation from some cabinet ministers. Yesterday, ANC Secretary General went to court to open a case against you. What's your reaction to this latest development, and why do you think all this is happening?
Tshepo is very difficult. I think I am quite a skilled human being in terms of human capital development, but one of my skills is not reading into crystal balls and trying to figure what is going to happen or why people do certain things, although people do intrigue me. But I do think that it's a natural reaction, I think. I think when you get accused, you want to defend, probably, I don't know, but I received a letter 2 days ago. I think the first letter was 2 days ago. Another letter was yesterday. I saw on Twitter there's another one I should expect today. And then I noted the Secretary General went quite a big show. I saw of going to lay a charge, I think, for criminal injuria. The other letters from him. So he laid a charge for criminal injuria, and then I received a letter to retract and to apologize or something like that. I'm not too bothered by that, quite frankly. I think people must do what they have to do. Of course, I am going to go back and tell them, well, there's no apology from me, so I think their lawyers may as well start now if they want to, because they're waiting for me to respond. And I will respond. I'll do the honorable thing. I'll do the right thing and respond to them out of respect. But I certainly have no regrets about what I did. Especially sitting now, I think there was a time when I was very apprehensive, very, very apprehensive. I was apprehensive because of what one might expect in an environment. I've only been back home for 2 years. I'm trying to reintegrate into my home. I've made it my business that I'm back home for good. And you're starting to make friendships and you're starting to make enemies. It's not a nice thing. You have to have that interrogation and that debate with yourself. My apprehension now is for a different kind. I'm told that I'm not safe, but I hear some theories about why I'm safe, so I'm going to work with the ones that say I'm safe as opposed to being unsafe, and I'm going to defend whatever comes my way, because I stand by what I said, and I'm very, very certain about what I said. I have no doubt in my mind. And when I look at the response, which I never thought of, I must tell you, and more often than not, when I do things, I don't think of response. When I see the response on LinkedIn, I see the response on Twitter, I see the response on Instagram, it's been mind-boggling. I can't begin to explain to you the letters I've received. People asking to be mentored, people thanking me for inspiring them, people thanking me for speaking out, people thanking me for whatever. I mean, loads and loads of stuff. That's why I've been very exhausted lately, reading and responding, because I always respond to stuff no matter what. And over the last three and a half days, I have an additional new following on Twitter of about 5,500, with people not just following. Sometimes quantity doesn't mean anything. It's the qualitative engagement and statements people make that I'm talking about.
What's going to be your next step? Obviously, you are quite firm in terms of this contract. Are you confident that you will eventually be given a space and time to execute?
Tshepo, all my life I've always been involved in pioneering stuff. I've always been one of those people that get into things first, with a few guys, do things. And I've found that when you do that, you take a big risk. You could actually, in fact, one failed. One venture I was involved in where we were the first. Was a problem. It took time for people to understand it. And I've learned from those experiences, and I've used those experiences as I grow and as I mature as a business person and as a practitioner and as a business activist. So for me, I've had to accept and say to myself, this is new thinking. It's a concept. But one of the DJs of a radio station was very, very naive when I said to him, the Googles of the world, the Facebooks of the world, and the discoveries of the world started as an idea. And his response was the most ridiculous thing. He said, well, I know Google. I said, of course you do, but you didn't know Google when Google was an idea. Okay? And so for me, I've had to accept that when you come up with a disruptionist, innovative idea, you need to also give people maybe the universe. Maybe God wanted to give people an opportunity to ask these questions via some ridiculous articles that have been written about, everything but the project. And now the way forward for me is hopefully that people are going to realize that they've taken as much time as they need to take doing whatever checks they've been doing. But from whence I sit, I know we've been subjected to a very rigorous, robust process. We have a valid agreement. It's been agreed to by both accounting officers of the UIF and of the Department of Employment and Labor. The one who's resigned from the Department of Employment and Labor is also an accounting authority of the other one. So for me, the way forward is to defend when I need to defend, fight where I need to fight. Hopefully it's not going to be necessary. I don't see why we should fight when we want to create over 700,000 jobs. I would rather ask for people to collaborate. I would rather ask for people to ask questions if they don't understand. I'm happy to do that. The minister was offered that I go and explain things to him. He refused. I don't understand that. That for me makes no sense. Because if you really, really, truly don't want to understand, you ask. But I do know, and I hope this is true because I was told, I mentioned it in one interview and somebody laughed, that when he was asked about the project, or rather they were talking about employment via the labor activation program and other programs, apparently he said the project Intswembu. Now Intswembu, I don't use that word myself, but Intswembu means it's sharp, it's great, but the only problem is that it's owned by the wrong person, and that's me. So I don't understand that.
I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm sure you've been asked it many times on the allegation of soliciting a bribe, a 500 million rand. You've made it clear that you're not going to mention who the intermediaries are that approach you. But
For now.
Okay.
Some stage they have to be mentioned. to court and not mention them. It would be ludicrous. I mean, what am I going to run my case on, right? But for now, not. And there's a very simple reason why. Because, did you hear 2 days ago people going to court in Randburg were killed? They were going to testify against the police. They were shot in front of the court. Did you hear that it happens a lot in my beautiful country, unfortunately, and I don't want people to think we're such a bad country where everybody shoots. But a few days ago, the Minister of Transport on the N3 had her bodyguards, guns were taken and whatever, in our country, right? 54 weeks ago, Justice Zondo said there's so much corruption in this country. I haven't heard that anybody's been arrested. I hear spinning. We're talking about how we are coming up with policies that are going to be structured on the learnings, but I don't hear that people are in prison. So I'm not going to jeopardize people. One of them is a very dear friend. He was really trying to help. He was really hoping he can lobby for me, facilitate for me. But I realized that even he was taken by surprise by the 10 of events that say, let's talk about 10% rather than just talk about facilitation and lobbying and whatever the case may be. I can take responsibility for myself, right? If something happens to me, like the people I'm saying we're going to go to the Randburg court, that's my decision. But I can't do that about other people's lives. He's got a family of his own. I've got to be very circumspect. I've got to think about that very carefully and see how I manage it to the best of my ability. But at some stage, I've made it clear to him too. I said, listen, guy, there's going to be a point where I've got to put your name on the table. That's just how it is.
What other evidence or proof is likely to come out?
Do you? I'm not going to use you. I'll leave it for the court. No, I'll leave it for the court.
Well, what other proof to show? I mean, to indicate that indeed this, you say that
it is proof that I've got that. It is proof that I sat with these individuals. I've got that. It is proof that I give you their names. I've got that. It is proof that they represent the people I say they represent. I checked that. And so I could go on. And quite frankly, I can't give you more right now without giving you my case and telling you what's going to happen. Let's go to court if people want to go to court. I'm very excited at the prospect of hopefully finding a solution. But if there isn't and we have to go to court, let it be. That's how it's going to be. Another thing, Tshepo, we need to think about. When you've gone as far as I've gone with my life, so I've reached the highest pinnacle of multilateralism in my life. Okay? I'm probably one of the highest officers to have ranked in the United Nations. I was also the global United Nations business and human rights person who did that stuff. So I can't go to a point where I lead all the employers in the world and I speak for over 50 million companies in the world. And then I come home and I mess it up over stuff that I have not thought through properly and stuff that I don't believe I can prove when I have to prove. I wouldn't do that lightly. It would be irresponsible in the extreme. I've gone too far and I can't go back and be a young guy again and make up for it, right? So for me, people must believe me if they want, and if they don't want, it's also okay. That's what life is about. People must decide.
Have you had any dealings, interaction with the ministers that you are alleging?
Pre or post? Well, I've met. Okay, Mbax is not a minister, but he used to be. So I've met Mbax. Apparently he mentioned that I'm an ANC member, and I was very pleasantly surprised because my card has not been renewed for 5-6 years. So I'm happy to know that I'm still an ANC member, even though my card hasn't arrived. But I've met Mbax maybe twice. One time we went to watch the Venus and Serena Williams tennis together, and he was hounding me for photos after that. So I know the guy. I met him at a restaurant at Bahia in Cape Town maybe 2 years ago. He asked for my number for the second or the third time, and I said to him, listen, he was sitting with his wife. I said, I'm tired of giving you my number. How many times? But I've never really spoken to him. The other minister, Ngesi, I've released the WhatsApp messages with him on Twitter now to show that, yeah.
Unfortunately, we've completely run out of time. Thank you very much. Okay. That's Mthunzi Mdwaba. This story is really getting interesting by the day, and I think it's definitely a developing story, and he stands firm that definitely there is more that he's still going to divulge. I hand you back to studio.